Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this evening I'm joined by Lawrence Conley. We're talking about the League Cup semi-final. It's scoreless at the break. We did discuss the possibility of it, being one of those games, Lawrence, not quite as stuffy as the Livingston match that we spoke about at the beginning of the match. But we'll go through it blow by blow. I think when we look at that first 5 minutes, David Turnbull gets a right good chance, but that was all down to the impact that Jota had in the early stages. He looks in the mood, doesn't he, down the left?
Yeah, Jota's definitely got to measure his man, but Turnbull's got to bust the net. It's
the one guy we spoke about to do just that as well.
Yeah, it's a poor attempt by him. Not having his best game, but what options do we have? I think Abad is also another player that's not really been in it. How fit is Jamesy Forrest? Could that be a change that we're going to see?
Interesting. Yeah, interesting point, mate. I mean, I think everything went down the left for Celtic, and quite rightly so. Some of the skills on display by Jota were just awesome. And, the wee dink, the wee flick into the middle. And I think it was mentioned that, it is a bit of showboating, but it was a decent cross as well. He's not wasteful with his crosses, but I still have the same concern that we had against Livingston over the two games, where I think Patrick on one of our broadcasts said that we had 80 crosses. But we don't really have a target man in the middle for those crosses, do we?
Yeah, that's a problem. A couple of times the ball's been, across the 6-yard box, but whoever's been make the back post run hasn't made it. We don't have a target man. I think a lot of times we're taking the easy pass. There's not a lot of people making the more incisive pass. I thought Beaton's been okay. Unlucky to pick up a yellow card. So for me, he's maybe something that we might have to change.
There you go. McGrory brings it up, Lawrence. Before we came on live, I was just saying to you, we spoke about Turnbull, obviously, before the game, in respect to the fact that sometimes you just need a game changer, especially if you're struggling to break down a defence. He got that chance. I made it 4 minutes into the game. He gets the chance. He puts it over. He should have done better. But the other thing we spoke about was Beaton and how assured some of his, without being extravagant in his play, how assured he had been in some of his games under Ange Postecoglou. But unfortunately, he did pick up a yellow card pretty early in that first half. And as soon as he did it, I did become quite concerned. Other than that, however, I thought Beaton had a very good first half. Yeah,
his ball retention's great. Actually, I thought he's been moving it a lot quicker than what he's known for. Normally, he slows the game down, but he has been moving it quicker. He's shown for the ball, but I could see that being a change. McCarthy coming on for him just because he's on a yellow. He's only one bad tackle, one bad decision away from leaving early. So yeah, that's potentially a change you'll be looking at. Get McCarthy on. I think we're maybe missing a wee bit of a dig in midfield as well. I think McCarthy would give us that.
Do you think Ange would go for McCarthy over Sorrell, Lawrence?
Yeah, I think he would. When was the last time Sorrell was involved?
I know.
He's made that decision a few times, getting McCarthy on in front of him, hasn't he? So, I think it's the easier one. I think McCarthy's got, Bag's more experience, and I think, Bryson's experience has probably shown in midfield for St Johnstone just now, and I think, we could do with McCarthy's dig in there and, maybe get 15 minutes into the second half, see if anything's changed. If it hasn't, McCarthy for Beaton and Abada for Forrest.
It's a good point because quite a few of the commenters are agreeing with you with the points you're making here. Stevie boy, thanks for joining us on YouTube. Stevie, hope you're enjoying the show a wee bit better than the game. It's not been a very eventful first half, but I think it's safe to say when you look at that bench, Lawrence, that McCarthy hasn't featured due to fitness, whereas Sorrell has dropped out the squad due to his performances so far under Ange. He's one player. We go on about the Beaton improvement, the effect that Ange has had on Rogic and on Ralston, but there are a couple of other players you've got to point out who have not really set the header alight, and I think Sorrell's one of them. He comes into the team when we were going through a kind of sticky patch last season, and like Turnbull, he showed up very well the night that we went toe-to-toe with Lille. And I think Conor Hazard played that night as well, actually. And then he had a right good run after that, Lawrence. But I don't think we've seen the best of him since. I mean, the game this season that springs to mind was away against Betis. I thought that was the game where I had my doubts that he fits into Ange's system, Sorrell.
Yeah. I'm not too sure if it's a system. It gives away a lot of niggly fouls, which then slows the game down and gets the other team, a breather, which is something obviously Ange just try to stop. McCarthy's been signing big money, and I think, Ange is picking him ahead of Sorrell quite often, or using him as a sub ahead of Sorrell. And I think it's not going to change today. We're lacking a bit of a cutting edge. It's not really happy for David Turnbull. That was a horrendous miss. But who do we have on the bench to bring on? Is it, we could bring on, I suppose, McCarthy for Turnbull and Sean McGregor further forward. We could try that. But with Beaton being on the yellow, I just think the change is probably going to be made as Beaton for McCarthy. Precarious.
It's a good point you make, though. So have a look at the bench. Who is the game changer, Lawrence? Who's the game changer? Because early on in the season, I thought that we were getting some good performances. The Betis game, let's use that as an example. We got a great good performance for parts of that game, but you looked at the bench and there was no options. There was no game-changing options. I mean, we went 4-2 down, and it was through to the determination of Ralston that we pulled a goal back near the end that night. I'm looking at that bench just now, and I think in terms of a game changer, Forrest is definitely one of those. Johnstone, question mark over Johnstone still. He still hasn't done it. We've been saying about Johnstone this season that it's make or break for him. So I'm looking at that bench. Who are you confident in changing the game? I agree with you, McCarthy for Beachon, due to the circumstances perhaps. But I think Forrest is a game changer. And Abada, like you say, has been pretty quiet in that first half.
Yeah, I think James is, modern day Celtic legend. He's definitely someone that's got goals in him. And Abada, it's just not happening for him today. Montgomery, you're not going to bring Jota off for him, so would you bring Abada off and move Jota over to the right just to get Montgomery on? I would, for me, Forrest starts ahead of him. Sorry, he's the most likely sub. I said maybe he does fancy Turnbull off if it's not happening. Put McCarthy on and shove McGregor further forwards. Callum can play in that role. It's so. Outside of that, do we really have any other options?
I think there was a wee bit of frustration creeping in, Lawrence. I mean, I think it's a good point, actually. McGregor is very effective further up the park. But the frustration that I'm talking about is I think if there's a period of time that Kyogo doesn't get the ball, he becomes a wee bit frustrated and then he starts to come deep. And we saw that in the first half as well, where he's trying to pick the ball up in his own half and on the halfway line where, we've actually got a massive space up there. So if someone is able, like a Beaton, who I think has used the ball really, really well from defence to attack in the transition, if he's looking up, Kyogo's not there because he's dropping a wee bit too deep. Do you think that's a frustration, or does he have the movement to actually still get into the position should we break?
Listen, I think he's probably got the movement, still to get in there. But if Kyogo's coming that deeper, he's hopefully going to be dragging his marker with him and leaving maybe room for Jota or Abada to come into that space. We're not seeing the full park. Unfortunately, we're not at the game. But if he's coming deep, I think that's probably part of the plan. Just to try and move St Johnstone about and unsettle them a bit. St Johnstone played very well defensively. They're holding their lines. They're marking their men. They're not leaving a lot of space. It's kind of the game plan we talked about before kickoff. We knew this is what they were going to do, and we knew it'd be important to take chances when we got them. Fortunately, Turnbull gets guilty chance, and I'm not too sure what he's doing. Why it's not in the back of the net.
The big thing here as well. Ralston took a shot rather that went wildly over the bar. But again, I think Ralston has had his usual solid contribution to that first half. He's still trying to hit the byline and get the ball over. But in saying that, on the other side, Lawrence, St Johnstone seemed to be targeting Juranovic. I think I really like Rooney. I think last season was his coming of age season for St Johnstone. We spoke earlier about the 1969 Scottish League Cup final, which was obviously the Bertie Auld Cup final. Who's playing at centre half but Benny Rooney for St Johnstone that day? So there is a connection here going right back to that 1969 final. They seem to be targeting Juranovic on the left. Do they see him, due to him playing out of position, as an option, as a weak spot in that Celtic defence?
Yeah, I think there was one point you had to play the ball out for a throw-in because it was coming down, and a left-footed player might have been able to take it and play it back up the line, but he's had to kind of turn, get his right foot across.
Yeah.
They've got a throw-in. So, yeah, they've obviously thought, well, if we can get down his outside, he's a bit uncomfortable trying to turn. So let's do it for him. But, Juranovic has been all right for us so far. I don't think they're getting too much joy out of that. It's just frustrating. Turnbull hasn't taken that. Abada's not looked as if he's been in it. James is there. He's rapid. He knows where the goal is. He's done it before in this big occasions. A lot of players on the park haven't done it before. For Celtic anyway, in a semi-final. So bringing on, Forrest's experience. I think that's the two subs, Forrest and McCarthy. And I think
Alfred agrees with you.
Yeah. Listen, I just think because Beaton's on a yellow, take him off. If not, I might actually try McCarthy for Turnbull and shoving McGregor further forward. Freeing up Callum.
There's a few comments coming through in relation to David Turnbull. We spoke about him before the game. I'm not getting on his back by any means. I thought he'd come into some good form before the international break. But these are the types of games that you want him to take the game by the scruff of the neck, Lawrence. You want him to take control and start orchestrating it. He's not done that yet. There was a moment actually where he lost the ball again in a defensive area, and he did manage to win it back, which is something we've been praising him for. When losing the ball, Ryan Christie was very good at that as well, but this was in a defensive area rather than in the attacking third. But we'll bring up outdoor starter. What gives Celtic the right to turn up and win? No, nothing. Especially when you consider, Lawrence, that we're playing the holders. We're playing a team who last season, unless a St Johnstone fan can come on and tell me otherwise, is arguably the best season in their history. Last season, 2 domestic cup wins. And you can't underestimate them. I think the key today, and we touched on it before the game, was that they're very, very well organised. They're very, disciplined at the back. And we might face a situation where it's nothing each at 75 minutes. And then we've got that dilemma again, Lawrence, that we had against Livingston. What do you do now? Is this ACSOM going to go Football Manager great and get on the manager's back again? No, I don't think so. I think looking at that first half, I don't think Celtic have done a great deal wrong, to be honest with you, but we are up against a very resolute defensive St Johnstone side who, as I say, last season, they know how to win at this park. They know how to win in the Cup, Lawrence.
16 games or so since they've been beaten in the Cup. Those players will be desperate to maintain that. The Cup holders, they want to keep it on, but we're not going to talk about how St Johnstone can win the game on Celtic State of Mind. We're going to kind of say, this is what we want to change for Celtic so that we can get the edge and what we want to do. We've touched on it before the game. We know St Johnstone are dangerous. They're going to be dangerous at set pieces. They're going to be dangerous on the break. We understand that, but I think the amount of ball we've had, we should have probably created more chances. Turnbull's not doing it. Abada's not doing it. And that's what we're looking at changing to get more chances for the amount of possession we've got, because I think it's probably sitting about 75-80% possession or something. Not too sure we've actually had one in target. We've had a few shots, but half a dozen or so, but nothing on target. So yeah, I think Celtic, beat on Turnbull. Potentially either one of them for McCarthy, but for me it'd be Beaton because of the yellow and a bad off for Forrest. But give it 15 minutes, see how the boys go. We're kicking off again, and if we get 15 minutes, it's still 0-0, and make the change rather than waiting until 15 or 10 minutes to go and go.
Yeah,
but it's 0-0. We're getting really nervous and panicky. What do we do?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back at full time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved in the comments section. Whether you agree with us or not, your comments are welcome, and they do spark some debate, which is also welcome. All that's left for me to say is I'll see you at full time, and thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.